Name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. Lord, bless us and make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Okay, so welcome to the, this is the 5th time actually we do the university admissions workshop here in church. It is designed basically to let the youth that have gone through high school and went through the admission process recently, last few years, to give you a little bit of information and advice on how you prepare yourself for admission to college. And I want to make sure you understand, especially those of you who have siblings that are younger, that preparing to go to college starts once you go into high school. It doesn't start when you're a junior or a senior. You got to prepare yourself and get ready for the stage of where you actually put together your application, you write your essays. You have to have done something to write something in the essay. The essay has to contain what is it that you've done over the previous 2 or 3 years if you're writing it as a junior or as a senior. So I wanted to give you a sense of what we're going to talk about today, the youth that are going to speak to you. But first I want to make sure also that it is very easy to think of admission to college as a number, GPA, SAT, ACT, and it's not. And I'm going to prove to you that from with a video that UNC had put up very recently. It is really, they evaluate the applicants as a whole. They evaluate the applicants in a holistic manner to kind of get a sense of what the applicants are going to contribute to the university, not only what the university is going to put in the heads of the applicants. So keep this in mind as you go through the material, that they're really looking at more than that. So I'm going to play the video. It's about 3 minutes long, but this is a university admissions officer, and he's telling you point blank what is it that they're looking for.
We're not looking for a particular number or a particular set of numbers. Students and families tend to focus on numbers, understandably. They're numbers. You can look at them. They offer the illusion of precision. There's no number that measures a student. There's no set of numbers that can tell us the whole story of a young person, what she's done, what he's capable of doing, how far they've traveled. We have to rely on more than just 1 or 2 numbers. And when people talk about admission to a place like this, understandably a lot of the attention gets focused on what's your GPA, where do you rank in your class, what's your test score. And all those things are things we pay attention to in combination with other things to help us figure out what a person's done and what a person might do or is likely to do when a person comes here. But none of those numbers tells the whole story. So we look at everything else. Academically, it helps to be curious. It helps to be interested in school. I tell students a lot, it's important to try to figure out a way to take some joy in what you're doing in the moment. Good-heartedness, curiosity, willingness to track down the answer even when it's hard to find. Beyond that, we're a public institution, and I think it's safe to say we're looking for people from all walks of life. We don't think there is a Carolina student. We think there are thousands of Carolina students, and we're willing to be surprised, and we're willing to be actually overjoyed, thrilled by the things that young people tell us about themselves that we weren't expecting to find. I want more information about students, not less. And so when we read applications, we're trying to pay attention to students who understand, first of all, that they don't have all the answers, that there's more to those around them than a person might see at first. A willingness to make common cause, a willingness to work together, a willingness to take other people for who they are. All those things matter to us, and those are qualities that I actually think any community would probably seek out in others who were looking to join.
So I think the message is pretty clear. They are really looking at more than numbers. Getting the GPA is necessary, getting the SAT score is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You got to do more. Okay, so I want to give you a very quick introduction to the contents of the workshop today. We have really five presentations. The sixth is optional depending on how much time we have left at the end. But basically, we're going to start off, and the order may change depending on who's here and who hasn't arrived yet. So Georgia is going to start off with a presentation on what you do as a 12th grader, the application process itself, how you get yourself prepared for the August 2018, round. So you're going to be applying until December for admission in the 2018 cohort. And then she's also has a separate presentation on financial aid, how to apply for financial aid, the different options and processes and so on. George Mehta is going to tell us about transfer from community college to university. Naveen Isa is going to tell us about the challenges of living away from home. And Christina is going to tell us about how to prepare. Now, this is the part that I was talking about earlier. How do you prepare yourself between 9th grade and 11th grade for what you need to put in your application as you apply for colleges in 12th grade? And then, depending on whether time permits or not, I'm going to talk to the parents primarily because the education system here in America is very, very different from the system in Egypt. So I want to address some of these differences with the parents and see if they have any questions I can answer. And throughout the workshop, please raise your voice with questions. It's easier to answer questions early instead of having them foster and prohibit your understanding of the material as we go on. Okay, so we'll start with Georgia talking about the 12th grade, the application process when you're in 12th grade. Please, Georgia.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. My name is Georgia. I think I know most of you guys. Oh, great. Even better. All right. I went to NC State. I just graduated last May. Go Wolfpack. I don't think this is, okay. I go to NCCU right now, School of Law, so I'm a freshman all over again. And I feel like I'm always going to be one. So basically, we're just going to talk about, mainly for high school seniors, if you're doing your applications now or if you started, this is just like general information to keep in mind. So some things to consider before applying. So who here is a high school senior? Just out of curiosity. Okay, one. Just one? Okay, well, you're doing the right thing. Have you applied yet? Okay, so when you become a senior, then you will already know this, and you don't have to listen to this again. Basically, some things to consider before you're applying when you're making your decision of where to go to school is definitely apply to multiple schools. I tell this to every person every single year, that always have a backup plan. It's fine to have like a #1 school. It's fine to just want to go to UNC. It's fine to just want to go to NC State, but please apply somewhere else because God forbid you don't get in where you want to go, you're not going to have a plan, and it's going to set you back a year, and then it's just going to go down from there. So please apply to multiple schools. Always have a backup plan. I think I applied to like 7 schools when I was trying to do my college applications. Go to open houses, find out specific college statistics. What is the GPA requirement if they have one? What is the average SAT and ACT score? So you don't go in blindsided. Obviously, like the video said, It's not just about a number, but to be completely honest with you, they do care about your grades. I mean, you can't have a D+ average and expect to get into school because you just have an amazing personality. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So you need to make sure you know what standards they have. And also, we are blessed in North Carolina to have a ton of universities, some big, some small. Think about going to smaller schools or consider them, just because smaller schools have lower ratios of student to teachers, so they will have, and most of them are private, so they do get private donations and they're not relying on money from the federal government, so they will have a lot more times, a lot more scholarship money to give out than public schools do, which we'll talk about when it comes to financial aid. So I just updated this morning. They actually really haven't changed, that's why it says 2017, but these are the admission statistics for NC State, UNC, and Chapel Hill. UNC, Chapel Hill, and Duke, the three main colleges here. I've realized that they changed the SAT from when I took it, so I don't really know like the scores. It's now at a 1600. It was at a 2100 when I was there, but. So, like you can see, NC State, 87% of the admitted students were in the top 25% of the class. 78% of the students admitted to UNC Chapel Hill were in the top 10% of their high school class. So you can see that they have very high standards. You can see what the average GPA is, average SAT. Now, if you don't have this score, like, please don't think that you need to just cross off these schools off your list if you want to go. Do what? Okay. Don't think that you're gonna not get into these schools and you shouldn't even bother applying. Still apply, like, you never know. Like, my SAT score was not NC State's standard, and I still got in. So anything is possible, I promise. All right. So basic deadline, November through February, you should be doing your applications right now if you're a high school senior. And it depends on whether you're doing early admissions and regular admissions. Just to clarify, early admissions is when you apply probably in November, October, November, and you will get an answer before everybody else does. You will get an answer probably in December, if I'm not mistaken, December or maybe even November. And you are not considered with the regular decision students. So they have a first cycle of all the early applicants, and then they'll have a regular decision cycle where your application is probably gonna be due in January, but you won't probably hear back until March or April, and then that gives you about a month to decide where you wanna go, because most schools want a decision by May 1st. So January through April is when you're gonna be getting decisions back from universities. And then most of the time, decision day never changes, it's May 1st. That is when you need to pick a school. Okay, so like I said, early decisions versus regular ones. Early applications do have higher consideration for scholarships, academic opportunities, honors opportunities, different stuff like that, because smaller percentages of people apply earlier in the year because, like all high school students, you wait until the last minute to take the SAT, so they're not gonna look at your application until your SAT score is out. So if you're the early bird and you take it beforehand, then you already have the advantage because you can do an early application. Be aware that some early decisions are binding, which means some schools say that if you do an early application to them and you are admitted, you need to withdraw your applications from every other school. So for example, Duke. I don't know if they changed it, but their early decision was binding, which means you can apply to Duke, UNC, NC State. But if you hear back from Duke in the early decisions, you basically have committed there. So you need to withdraw your applications from every other school. Does that make sense? Okay. Regular applications are usually due by February, and you get a decision by April 1st. There is more competition because more people are gonna be applying there, so your odds are gonna be a lot harder to get in. And like I said, you will only have basically 4 weeks to make a decision on what school you get into. So I recommend you do early applications. Okay, cfnc.org, easiest way to apply. That's for all in-state schools. So all North Carolina public universities use cfnc.com. I believe they also now use Common App, which is a general online application for all US schools, private, non-private, whatever you have it. Also, go see your guidance counselors about application waivers, because a lot of schools have application waivers, which basically, like, if you receive free or reduced lunch, or your parents make a certain amount of money, like, you can get your application fees waived. If you can take advantage of those, please do, because they will rack up very fast. It's about $100 per application fee. So if you apply to 7 schools, that's $700 right there. So that's a whole bunch of shoes you can buy. So just be aware, ask your guidance counselors. They do have all of this in your school. Things to keep in mind, definitely find good contacts for recommendation letters. Recommendation letters can make or break your application. If you know somebody that's a distinguished alumni of NC State or UNC or Chapel Hill, or a good faculty member, or somebody that knows people in that community, it's always good to have a recommendation letter, because basically that person is putting their name on the line and saying, hey, you should admit them because they're going to be a good student. So, hint, hint. Talk to your guidance counselors, because they are also very good for recommendations. They know a lot of tricks, if they know about any open houses, or they work with the college admissions counselors, so they have close relationships with them. So if there's a particular school you're interested in, they'll put you in good contact with them. Also, one other thing, when you're doing your applications, this is confusing. Every single year I talk about this, and I don't think I know how to explain it correctly. But basically, when you're doing your application, some of you may know what you want to do, and some of you may not know what you want to do, but you know you want to go to college. When you're applying within a university, there are multiple colleges. So within NC State University, there is the College of Engineering, the College of Business, the College of Natural Resources, whatever you have it. Within those colleges, you have different degrees. So you can go to the College of Business and you can have a business degree, an economics degree, a marketing degree, whatever you have it. When you are applying, make sure to try not to put all your choices in the same college. So for example, if you know you want to be an economics major, you can be in the College of Business. I know this because, just for example, I had a business degree. So if you want to be an economics major, that's fine. Put that as your #1 choice, because that is the first department that's going to look at your application. If for some reason you don't get in, they're going to look at your second choice. If your second choice, let's say, is the business department, the business department might have a lower SAT requirement or a lower GPA requirement, and you might be able to get into there. Once you get in, you can always transfer to whatever program you want to do. Once you're in the university, you can do first-year college, you can do designing, whatever you want to do. You have time to change your degree. I know people that have changed their degrees like 3 times in college, so you're not stuck with it. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so when you get your decision, basically you will have 4 answers: accepted, denied, deferred, or waitlisted. Accepted or denied, it's pretty simple. Deferred means that they haven't rejected you yet, but basically what they're gonna do is leave your application until the very end, once they've sent out all their acceptance, see how many number of seats they still have open, and reevaluate your application to see if you can get in, or they might make you send another test score in or stuff like that. Waitlisted, you haven't gotten in, but if anybody gives up their seat, then you will be on the wait list. That is why you need to apply to more than one school, because if you are waitlisted, you don't want to be waiting until the day before classes start to find out if you got in. I know a girl that actually applied to Harvard, and she was waitlisted until the day class registration was due. And she found out that day and had to register by 5 p.m. that day, or she was going to lose her spot. So you don't want to be that person. Get a head start on building a resume, building personal statements and recommendation letters. Once you have all of that, you're not going to be that person that's lost and doesn't know what to do at the very end, and you're just trying to scramble to get everything together. And I think we might talk about maybe helping you guys with your resumes and your personal statements later on. So, any questions? Yes. Is there a certain layout for recommendation letters? Okay, so the question was, is there a certain layout? So you are not the one that's gonna write the recommendation letter. The person that you ask to recommend you is gonna write the letter. Sometimes they might have like a specific prompt. It depends on the school. They're gonna send them special instructions on how to submit it, and you're never gonna see the recommendation letter. Yes. So most schools do it like that, electronically, where you type in the person's email. So for example, if Shahir is recommending me, I will put his email in. He's gonna get a separate link to submit it directly to the school. It will never go through you. Some schools, like if they want you to mail it in, you can be. Most of the time they just do direct, so that way you never see the recommendation letter most of the time. So, is there another question? Yes. No. So if you're deferred, that means that they still have your application up for review, so you don't need to apply again. They might ask you to send like your second semester transcript or something like that, but basically at the end, in the spring, once people start deciding what school they're gonna do, they're gonna give up their seat at one school to go to another. Once they see how many seats they have available and they reevaluate their applications that have already been submitted, then they'll reach a decision. So you don't need to apply again if you're deferred. We're gonna talk about that. If you're denied, that's why you apply to more than one school. You might be denied somewhere and accepted somewhere else. So you never know. That's why you need to apply to more than one school, because if you just apply to your top school and you don't get in, you're gonna be really upset and you're not gonna have a plan. So that's why. And if you're denied, you need to wait until the next application cycle opens. So like, for example, if you're denied in early applications, you can't apply in regular applications because this is for the same school year. You need to wait for the 2019-2020 school year, or like the spring semester, not the fall, stuff like that.
Or you go to a community college for a year or 2 years. George is going to talk about this. There is a process.
Right. Yeah.
I also want to say about recommendation letters. Some schools have now made them optional, so it's not necessary that when you apply, you're going to see that.
Right.
So there are different. If you don't see a spot for a recommendation letter, don't assume that they did something wrong. If they need it, they put it in instructions on it, and if they don't have it, then it's not.
Okay.
I have to say you let her off the hook very easily because usually Georgia gets more questions than this. So, and you're speaking again, by the way. So come back. Hey, come back. You're speaking again.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about how much college costs and how to pay for it. So raise your hand if you think college is cheap. Raise your hand if you think college is free. Okay, good to know. All right, so updated bad news. I tried to find last year's numbers, but they really haven't changed since I did this in 2016, so I just kept the 2016 numbers, but as you can see, we're gonna talk about in-state and out-of-state tuition, but basically you can see I put the three main schools up there, what their tuition, this is including fees, room and board, stuff like that. Obviously not very cheap at all. Duke University is a private school, which means that you don't have a difference between in-state and out-of-state. Well, let me back up. In-state tuition, do you guys know the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition? Okay. For those of you that don't know, if you are an in-state resident, meaning you are a resident of North Carolina, you get a discounted tuition versus people that come from out-of-state. So if you're from North Carolina and you go to NC State, you will pay less than somebody from New York that comes to NC State because they're not a resident of North Carolina. So that makes a difference. Think about that when you're applying to out-of-state schools. Thanks. Okay. Think about that when you're applying to out-of-state schools. I'm not saying don't apply to them, but just be aware that you probably were going to pay more in tuition. And like I said, this is the difference between private and public universities. We have a lot of schools that are public universities, so there's really no reason for you to apply out of state, just being honest, because we have Duke, UNC, NC State, Wake Forest. Like, those are in the top 75 schools in the entire nation. So you really don't need to look at out-of-state schools, but if there's something that you have your heart set in, that's fine. Public schools are gonna be cheaper than private schools. Public schools receive funding from the federal government, which means they get subsidies. Private schools are based on private donations and stuff like that, so they will charge a higher tuition. Good news. Wow, I made this really small. Okay, good news is there's help to pay for college. So who's heard of the FAFSA? Okay, so complete the FAFSA as early as possible. So FAFSA is Federal Application for Financial financial application for federal student aid. Basically, you fill out, it's an application that you fill out. You're gonna put your parents' tax information on there, most likely, because most of you aren't really working. You're gonna put your, if you do work, you can put your tax stuff, but it's mainly gonna look at your parents' tax information and what they earn and everything, and a number of different factors to see what money the federal government will give you. So they just changed it. So before you would apply every January 1st of every single year. So for 2018-2019 school year, the very first day would be January 1st, 2018. They changed it now. You actually can start in October. So that FAFSA application is open right now. So if you're going to college next year, even if you haven't gotten a decision in, do your FAFSA application. And they will use the year prior's tax information. So 2017 to 2018, they would use 2015 tax returns because you haven't filed your tax returns yet, basically. They take it, like I said, they take into factors like how much your family makes, how many kids in your household go to college, different stuff like that, and different expenses to see like how much need do you get. And then they will designate a certain amount of money. This is from the federal government. If you get a grant, you don't need to pay it back. A grant is free money. You can have it. You don't have to pay it back. A loan, you have to pay back. You want to try and avoid loans. Scholarship is also free money. Scholarships are great. So like I said, grants are based on how much you make, how much your parents make, so it's need-based, so you don't need to fill out an application or anything like that. You probably just need to submit your parents' tax information, and then they will determine everything. And each school usually has their own financial application separate from the FAFSA. Each school will get the FAFSA, but then they might have their own separate application. Scholarships are great because it can be based on how well you do in school. There is an Egyptian American scholarship, just found this out. It can be a scholarship for soccer players. It's everything and anything there's a scholarship for it, I promise. One of the best websites is FastWeb, FastWeb.com. Basically, you make a whole profile, tell them your interests, what you're doing, and they will sort and find scholarships that match your interests for you to apply for. Also, go visit your guidance counselors, because most of the times they have a lot of scholarships that they know about that they might be able to recommend you for or let you know so you can apply. And the better you do in school, the more likely you will get a scholarship. There's academic-based scholarships that each school does, which basically you don't need to apply, but when you send your transcript with your application, they will look at your grades. If you're in the top 10%, top 20, whatever you have it, you might get an extra boost in money. So doing well in school will pay off so you don't have to pay a huge amount of debt. Grad school doesn't have that. Learned that the hard way. And then you have loans. You have unsubsidized and subsidized. So subsidized loans, I always get this flipped. Subsidized loans don't have interest attached to them, right? Explain that.
Subsidized loans have interest. The interest does not start until you graduate, okay? Unsubsidized loans, the interest starts once you accept the loans.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. So if you take a loan out today, you can defer it for your whole college education, which is mainly for everyone would be 4 years. Interest does not start to tack on until year 4. Like he said, unsubsidized, the minute you say, yes, I want it, and you get that deposit in your bank account, the interest will grow for the next 4 years. Even if you are not required to pay it, at the end of 4 years, you're gonna have whatever you took out plus a whole lot more in interest. So you wanna try and avoid loans as much as possible. I mean, if you need to take them, that's perfectly fine. When you get to grad school, you will find out that you have to take out a loan. Private loans are from banks, so they're not going to be from, so the federal government, the unsubsidized and subsidized loans that we're talking about come from the federal government. They also have private loans, so you can get one from Bank of America, whatever you have it. Those you don't want to take out at all if you can avoid it. It needs to be like your last resort, because they have very, very high interest rates. They can change your interest rates, and they can tell you to start paying them back immediately. And you might not even be done with school. So you don't want to find yourself in that hole and get into a whole lot of debt. So like I said, each school, oh, go ahead. Okay, so each school has financial aid. Like I said, so this is an example of Duke. Like I said, Duke is a private school. So a family that has an income of $50,000 is going to pay about $13,000 a year. Now, don't think that you have to be super, super rich or very well off to be able to attend a very prestigious university like that. There is financial aid. And like I said, 55% of students don't even pay the full cost of tuition. Most students don't pay that price tag that I showed you in the very first slide. It just depends on how much your parents make, you know, and different factors that go into the equation. If you're concerned about how to pay for college, you should probably schedule an appointment with a financial aid counselor. So I know towards the spring semester, most high schools have financial aid counselors where they'll tell you, you know, this is what you need to do to help you figure out how to pay for school. And also when you get your acceptance letters to colleges, because you're all gonna go to college, they have a whole financial aid office to help you. You will get your own individual counselor. They have a whole office to give you tips and tricks and basically how to pay for college. So, like I said, whatever your parents make or how much money you make does not matter in America. What matters is your work ethic, how hard you work, how well you do in school, and how dedicated you are to paying for college or just succeeding in college. I mean, if you have to take out a loan, like I said, it's not the end of the day. You're gonna have debt. Everybody in America has it. That's just how we operate. So you don't even want to know how much in loans I have. So it's doable. So don't let that thing deter you from going to college. That should be like that shouldn't even be a reason. So okay, go ahead.
Okay, don't wait to apply for FAFSA until you decide which schools you're gonna apply for. There is a section in the FAFSA that asks you which schools you're applying to. You can put as many as you want. So even before you apply to colleges, you can list them all in your FAFSA application. You should do your FAFSA as fast as you can if you're graduating this year. If you're a senior graduating this year, it's more important to finish your FAFSA now. So just apply for your FAFSA, put all the schools that you think you're gonna apply to, and then after you finish the application, if you apply to these schools, your FAFSA application will automatically transfer to these schools. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say sometimes it's worth it to go to your financial advisor and ask what kind of scholarship are you available to. And most of the cases, financial aid office, they package students on the system automatically for what scholarship they're eligible for. So if you not speak up, that means you don't need it. It's not always whatever they give you, that's it. Go and ask and look for your stuff. Sometimes that happens. They might put you in another package.
Yeah, and like Naveen said, just to add on to that, every school gets a certain amount of money from the federal government that they give out to students based on scholarship and aid. So a lot of times they might have money left over that they've already distributed to everybody and there's extra money. So like she said, if you get to know them and you tell them, hey, I'm having a really hard time paying for college, they might even take a second look at your application and be like, you know what, let's give them out a little bit more scholarship money. I know a whole bunch of people that have had that happen to them, so.
So since Georgia just mentioned that, the FAFSA goes first come, first serve. So if you apply late and there's not a lot of money, you're not gonna get as much grant as if you would apply in like now, for example.
Does anybody have any questions?
Scholarships is a win because it's academically based. When you get a scholarship, you get the money, but you also get the prestige of having won something. So think that at some point you're going to either apply for jobs or going to apply for graduate school. When you have on your resume that you won a scholarship, it makes a difference. So don't be lazy, apply for scholarships because they are really, really worthwhile. And at this stage, entry into college, there is an awful lot of them. So your chances of getting something, no matter what, is a lot higher than once you get into school because there are other scholarships during your education and at university. Okay?
And one last thing, every high school in North Carolina has something called the People Helping People Scholarship. It's a scholarship that's sponsored by the State Employees Credit Union Bank, and they will pick one student from every high school in North Carolina to receive a $10,000 scholarship. So this is why you need to talk to your guidance counselors, because I didn't even know this until I talked to my guidance counselor, and I ended up being the student that won it like the year I graduated. So this is why you need to help, you know, go and talk to them, make friends with them, because they will be your best friend and let you know. So that's just one of thousands of scholarships you can win. So.
Any other questions for Georgia? Anything else? Let's thank Georgia, please. So next, George is going to talk about transfer from community college to university. It's a process. If you don't get into university the first round, instead of wasting a year to wait for applications the following year, you can start in a community college and then transfer during. I don't have yours printed. Okay.
You have it here?
Yeah, I do.
So from the first presentation that Georgia gave and told you not to do, what not to do, I basically did all of it. So I went the very wrong way. Okay, so basically what happened with me is I applied to NC State, only NC State, which you should not do. You should apply to more than one school. And I applied very late for financial aid as well. I got denied from NC State. The deadline for the other applications were all passed, so community colleges were my last option. Community colleges. Why you should go to community college? If you think about it money-wise, and don't make this be a problem. If money is a problem, maybe you can start at community college, but don't make this why you go to a community college. So it's less expensive. It's, if I remember correctly, I used to pay, let's say, I pay 5 times what I used to pay at Wake Tech now. So if I used to pay at Wake Tech $1,000, I pay $5,000 now at NC State. So it's a lot less expensive, a lot. A good place to start if you don't know what you want to major in. If you don't know where you're headed, if you don't know if you're going towards the medical field or towards engineering, towards business, you can start there. You can also apply to other schools, like a 4-year universities, and apply as undecided. But if you want to save money and you don't know what you want to study, you can start at Wake Tech. They have like counselors and advisors that can help you along the way to choose what major you want to continue or to pursue. Small classes. Okay, so if you think about freshman and sophomore year in college, usually the classes would range about 300. Okay, it's 300 students. Usually the classes at community colleges it's like high school. It's like 30, 35 maximum. It's not that big. So it's good because you're gonna have like a good relation with your instructor. You can ask more questions. Like they're gonna be having office hours. There's not a lot of people waiting in front of you to go to their office hours, meeting with them. If you have more questions, you have more time with the instructor than what you would have with an instructor at a 4-year university, especially in the first 2 years, freshman and sophomore years, because these are the large classes. Since we are in Raleigh here, Wake Tech has many campuses, and if I remember correctly, they have main campus on Fayetteville Road. They have the North Campus on Lewisburg Road here, like 10 minutes away from church. They have the West Campus in Cary, and they have a health science campus. I don't know where exactly is this one. And there's another, what? Okay, the one on the highway. And there's one more that is almost done. It's on Chapel Hill Road in Morrisville. So there's 5 campuses. Yani, it doesn't matter if you live at Raleigh, Cary, Durham. And from I looked up Durham Tech also. Durham Tech, if you live in Durham or Chapel Hill area, they have, I think, four campuses as well. So it's spread out along the county, and you don't have to drive far for school. If you have any question, you can interrupt me at any time, and you don't. Why not go to a community college? In most cases, it adds at least one more semester. Some classes would not transfer. So, for example, English 101 at NC State, the English composition at NC State, is not equivalent to the first English class that you take at a community college. So you have to take at Wake Tech, for example, English 111 and 112, so that these 2 classes would be equivalent to one course at NC State, which is English 101, for example. If you're in computer programming, there is like an intro level that you have to take at Wake Tech before you go to the higher level, so that you can have your intro level at NC State checked out. So some of these classes would delay you a little bit. Some people manage to finish their 2 years at Wake Tech and then move on to another 2 years at a 4-year university and finish in 4 years. Some people don't. Yeah, I think that's all about this part. Any questions here? Okay. Okay. Facts about community college. You pay for what you take. So, for example, at NC State, you pay for the amount of credit you're taking until you reach full-time. If you're a full-time, it doesn't matter how many classes you're taking, you're going to be paying the same amount. At Wake Tech, you're paying for the number of credits you're taking. It doesn't matter if you're a full-time, you're a part-time. I think the one credit is like $70 plus tax, something like that. So it accumulates along the way. It doesn't stop until you're at full time. No, if you're taking 5 classes, you're gonna be paying more than if you're taking 4. This is how it works. Doesn't really have to be full time. You guys get this point? Okay, you're all on your phone. Okay, good. Yes. عشية. We're almost done. He's taking notes. Yes. Okay. Okay, the second point, you're guaranteed a spot in a UNC system after the completion of your associate degree. The associate degree is the 2-year program that you do at Wake Tech. So after you graduate from that program with a good standing, you have a good GPA, you're guaranteed a spot of one of the UNC system. When I say UNC system, it's not just UNC. It's UNC Chapel Hill, UNC Charlotte, UNC Greensboro, NC State, ECU, all public universities in North Carolina. So, but you don't just graduate. It's based on still based on your GPA, you're guaranteed a spot. Okay. You don't have to get the associate degree to transfer. Okay, so if you, for example, you decided that you want to do engineering and you don't want to stay in Wake Tech until you're done with your associate degree. So, for example, you're gonna go onto the NC State website, look for the transfer requirement, see what classes exactly you need to take before you transfer, and once you completed these classes, you can apply for NC State, for the College of Engineering, whichever engineering major you want to pursue, and transfer right away. You don't have to wait the 2 years if you don't want to. If you have the requirement to transfer, you can apply directly. This is one of the good things. They're gonna try and make you stay. If you don't want to stay, you can just transfer. Yes?
So you could take either the SAT or the ACT, or you have to take both?
Yeah, either or. Don't say I'm going to a community college, I'm not going to take the SAT or the ACT. These actually, if you have a specific scores, they waive the placement test. When you go to a community college, there is a placement test. I don't know if it's the same system in four-year universities, but there is a placement test in English and in math. This is what determines where you start. So if your English is good, you're gonna take the placement test, and once you pass it, you're gonna start at English 111 at Wake Tech, which is the English composition. Beginning of writing, starting to write papers. If you have a good score in math, they're gonna waive the placement test for math. But that does not. Okay, there's two placement tests. Okay, there's two placement tests for math. One for high school level and one for college level. So you're gonna if you have a good score in the SAT, they're gonna waive the first one. You don't have to take it. And then you're gonna test in the second one, take the placement test in the second placement test. And this one determines if you start, for example, in calculus, or you need to start from pre-calculus, or if you do, I think that's the lower bound. If you already have passed the first one or it's waived, this is the bottom line, pre-calc. You start from pre-calc. If you took the college placement test and you do good on it, you can either start from trigonometry or you can start directly from calculus. That's, just to let you know, that saves a year. If you start from pre-calc to calc, if you take the placement test and start directly from calculus, that saves a year. Just something to put in mind. Yes? What do you mean? You mean like if you took calculus in high school? Okay. No. Where is the question?
I'm just confused because, thank you. So, like, are the placement tests, like, what are the placement tests?
10. Okay, the placement tests. There are 3 placement tests.
So think about it this way. People are coming to a university from different backgrounds, different schools. The university has to, in order to get them into advanced courses, they have to make sure that they know certain things. And if they come from different schools, they don't have a guarantee that, for example, your calculus, advanced placement calculus teacher covered all the information that they need for you to go into the calculus course in the university. So they give you the placement test, and if you do well on it, then they get you into the calculus course, and if you don't do well in it, then you go and take a remedial pre-calc or something like that. But it is the placement tests are a test of how well you know a subject, if it's in math or English, whatever, how well you know the subject to be able to go into the next course without having to retake stuff that you already covered in school.
So if you took an AP test in high school, would you still have to take, I'm good. Yes. Would you still have to take the placement test in college?
No.
That's the advanced placement.
If you took calculus and you passed the AP exam, you're not going to need to take the placement test.
But you have to have passed it, of course, not
just
take the advanced placement.
Thank you.
Also, just to clarify, you have to take a placement test whether if you don't transfer from community college to college and you go straight in, you still have to take the placement test. And the AP classes, if you take the AP exam and you score high enough, they will waive the prerequisite, like George said. So like, if you score, it's like 3, 4, or 5. If you score a 5 on your AP history exam, you can waive out of History 1 and History 2, which is that's a whole year because each class is a semester. And also, I forgot the last thing I was gonna say. I don't remember. Does that make sense with the AP stuff though? Okay.
Okay. Any more questions for this part? We're almost done. Okay. This is the last slide. Yeah. So once you know what you want to major in and what schools you want to apply to after your like first year at Wake Tech, for example, you should check the transfer requirement. Make sure that you have all the requirements to transfer. And also make sure that the classes that you take at the community college will transfer. Don't take classes that are not going to transfer. This is, yes?
You pay, if you went to Wake Tech, you pay like, 60 or 70 to apply to each college to stay in high school. Yeah.
I think.
You need to apply to Wake Tech or when you apply to the transfer? Does the transfer?
Yes, transferring, you need to pay. I think the application is like $70, something like that. It depends. Yeah. So make sure that you don't take classes that you don't need. This will add up to your like 4-year degree. Instead of staying for 4 years, you're gonna stay for 5, 6. Some people stay longer. So make sure that you only take what you need. Okay? Do not depend on your advisor at the community college to tell you which classes to take to transfer. So I'll tell you right now, at Wake Tech, they try to make you stay as long as you can for you to graduate from Wake Tech. Why? Because when you are a student at Wake Tech, you are paying for Wake Tech. So they want you to stay as long as you want until you get a degree from them. Because I don't know if this is 100% right or not, but the funds they get depend on the percentage of graduation. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, but just take only what you need to transfer or what you need to complete your associate degree. Don't just be taking classes for being a full-time student, or just take what you need, okay? And again, apply to more than one school when you're transferring. Applying to a community college, you're admitted once your application is submitted. You're admitted right away. Okay? Yes, of course. Any questions? Yes. No. I didn't say that. If you have the chance to go directly to a 4-year university, do so. Don't go through a community college. If you have the chance to go to a 4-year university right after high school, do so. Don't go to a community college. Okay. If I were you, I would go to a 4-year university and take loans. Doesn't matter. And pay them later. It doesn't matter. Just if you have the chance to go to a 4-year university right away, just do it. Just to let you know, also transfer is very competitive. Transfer is very competitive. I know some people that had higher GPA than me and did not transfer. Same semester that I was applying. is very competitive. So if you have the chance to right away go to a 4-year university, you should do so. So basically make community college as your last option.
Parents are allowed to ask questions, by the way. Your parents are allowed to ask questions. Okay. Thomas asked for a break, so we're going to give you a break. Do you want 10 minutes? Is 10 minutes enough? 30. Thomas is taking 30 minutes break, but we're all going to come back here in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. What's that? Shh. Shh. So finish off what you want to do, and then no break. We have a question. Use the microphone.
It's off. Press and hold.
I'm not very good at technology. All right. So I heard about the SAT subject tests, and I know they're not like required. Like most colleges don't require them. Like NC State and UNC don't require the SAT subject tests. But like if you take them, how does that help you?
Some colleges, they will take the subject test and some colleges won't. But if you're going to focus your energy to learn the subject test, take the AP class. And also, adding to AP classes, it is good to take AP classes and know which ones you should take. For example, I knew I was going to do an engineering major or a medicine major when I went to college. So I focused all my energy on maths and sciences in high school for the AP exams. Also, AP exams are a blessing, especially if you get the credit. For example, from experience at UNC, calculus is the most filled class. So I had calculus credit from the AP exam, so I didn't have to take it. That doesn't mean that you don't know the stuff or you learn an easier version. You know the same exact stuff, but in college, they make it harder. Why? Because they want to weed out students at the beginning. We can talk about that later on, but I tutor some of my friends, and the problems they have to do for calculus are obnoxious. I know how to do them, but I don't want to do them. It's you look at it and you're like, I don't even want to start this. If you know you're going to do a medicine major or an engineering major, focus your energy in high school and start taking what we call them prerequisites for the major in college. So start taking chemistry classes, learn chemistry, learn the calculus, learn physics, get an idea of what it is. So when you go into college, you're not fresh into the subject, because in college you cover more material in very short amount of time. And professors, they don't take questions. And if you ask a dumb questions, they will look at you and they will point you out in front of 300. No, because
that's not right. It's not right.
It's from experience. I got pointed out in front of 300 students, and she looked at me.
That's not true. I'll let you know. Okay, so for example, chemistry at NC State, they used to say it's a nightmare. They used to say that. When Susie took it, it was so easy. I don't know. Now it's the most.
Okay, so it's 5:20, so we'll reconvene at 5:30.
Okay.
Right? Let's start again so that we can finish on time, please. Lisa, you're after next. Because George was speaking. There is one in between.
Doesn't count.
No, he's speaking already. We have a clicker. Guys, let's get started, please. Ida, we don't have the speaker. Naveen. So this advances. استنى لهم دقيقتين لحد ما يرجعوا. You can, unless you prefer this. If you prefer this. Is it on? نعم. Yeah. لما يجي make copies. شاهر وبعدين ما تغششهاش ما تغششهاش عاوزينك كلمة Look who's talking. Look who's talking.
No.
Look who's talking.
أيوة.
وبعدين دي راجعة من كوريا بتعمل بقى الحاجات اللي هم بيعملوها ممكن تقطعك حتت.
Can I take it off? Can I just take it off?
So I'll be talking about living on campus or just simply living away. But before I talk, I want to hear your opinions and what do you think? Because at the end, it's all about your decision, no matter how much I talk. So who's considering like living away or going? Share some what we're doing. Okay, so why? Why? I have mandatory, okay. Why?
I don't think it's mandatory if you live within 50 miles of the school.
It's mandatory at UNC and NC State starting next year, I thought.
Okay, I'll check on that and I'll call your bluff if it's not correct.
Duke is mandatory.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think Duke is the first 3 years, and UNC and NC State is the first year.
3 years. Yes, sir.
Okay, other than mandatory, like I go to college 2.5 hours away from home. So the only thing I consider not mandatory is just safety. I don't want to drive all the way like 2.5 going, 2.5 going, backing, and then in the same day. Anyway, so you can ask yourself a lot of questions, and based on like your decision, yes or no, it's really about, is it right for me? Can I do it or not? But the question that I want you to ask is, am I confident enough? When I say confident enough, can I trust myself with no matter what challenges that will come up, no matter what I see, no matter what I listen, there's so many beliefs outside, is that I am going to stick for what I know. And what I believe is right, is the right thing for me. So just to put this in your mind when considering for any decision. So I'll be talking about challenges that I have faced. And the challenges that I'm putting up there, it might be different for someone else. Challenges is based upon your personality, campus you go on, the environment, the people you meet, so many things that build up challenges for you. In this for in-state. If you're going out of state or studying abroad, it's completely different. So first thing, moving, packing up, and unpacking, and moving through stuff, deciding what to take, what to not take with you. That's a challenge in itself. I hate packing. So, and then the other thing is, like when you're coming home, you have to back up again. Leaving home, you have to back up again. And then for weekend, you might forget something. I mean, Mina, my brother, who will be coming home with backpack, I'll be moving with 2 bags. So, yeah. So, if you like to pack, it won't be much of you. Home and church, friends, you're gonna miss them. Yeah, you're gonna miss home. It might be not really in high school, but when you move out, you're gonna miss home. You're gonna miss your parents, your mom's food. Yeah. Church, you're not gonna be able to participate in everything going on church like you used to do in church, especially if you're in choir or Sunday school. You're always here. You can't do this when you move out for college because you're gonna have a lot of other commitment to do. You're gonna decide, oh, do I really need to study for my test on Monday? Or go home, spend the weekend to go to church? What are you gonna do? It depends, yeah. And then friends. Here you hang out with friends, spend the Friday night outside, Saturday night, and that. But if you go out for college, you're gonna miss your friends. You can't drive all the way to here to just hang out there for 2 hours. And then later, like what, you know? So you're gonna find yourself making your life in somewhere different, and you have to make up friends, new friends, all over it again. Roommates, good luck with them. Come on. If you have a good roommate, consider yourself lucky. Sometimes you get good roommates, they respect you, they consider what you like, what you don't like, and they try to accommodate with you. Other times, you get really bad roommates. They don't know how to be living in a good way. So, for example, first year, I had a good roommate. But we had completely opposite schedules. So I would sleep early. She would sleep at 3 o'clock a.m. Her classes would start at 1 o'clock. My classes would start at 8 a.m. So sometimes she would go in the hallway, study, because I'm turning the lights off to sleep. And completely the opposite way, I'll take my stuff and dress up and my backpack in the bathroom so I don't wake up here in the morning. But then some roommates, they put on music, they party, and you have a test that have to study. So I ended up moving, like finding where to study, like library, study halls, study rooms, wherever I go. Because they don't, like if I go tell them, please put your music down, they'll be like what? You know, it's your problem, it's not mine. There's not the best beds. And dorms beds, they're not comfortable. You can complain as much as you want, they're not gonna change the utilities. It is what it is. Unless you do like go buy something to make you comfortable. I know when I moved to apartment, there's still mattresses are not that comfortable. One of my roommates, she sleeps on the floor. She changed the mattress twice, and it's not comfortable. So, bathrooms. If you're a clean geek and you're so big about clean, this is like the biggest challenge for you. Especially freshmen, they get dorms, and sometimes, like big universities, for a hallway bathrooms. So like it would be dorms, and then that big bathroom everybody shares. Yeah, it's a no-no. The restroom is not gonna be rest anymore. Bathroom, like the showers, if you take 30 minutes showers or 20 minutes, you got to finish like in 10 minutes or 5 minutes and get out. And responsibility, and I'll repeat it over and over again. You have to take care of yourself. Think of what you're gonna do before you do it. Because there's nobody there. It's only you, and that's it. Whatever you do, it's on you. And also, you have to be responsible for the people you're living with. So your roommates, you have to be responsible for what they do, because they're living with you. That dorms you're in, you're responsible for it. The furniture in there, you're responsible for it. If you're an upperclassman and you move to an apartment, you're responsible for it. Bills, if you're gonna live off campus, you're responsible to pay the bills and everything. So it's basically jumping like to live like at 25 years old when you're 80, to pay your bills and everything. I know when I moved to an apartment, one of the apartment, the third floor, they got on fire. And the second floor and the first floor, they completely got watered from the fire. So what the university did, they made the 4 people living in the same apartment that went on fire to take the responsibility of the whole complex that went damaged. And it was only a fault of one person. So that's why I say it's responsibility to take care of what your roommate's doing and who you're living with. And time management. It sounds easy, and it sounds like, oh, I'm just gonna do my schedule. Classes schedule, go to class and come back, and I'm gonna study, and that's it. No. It's time management for, do I really need to spend my time with that person or not? When you go to college, you get thrown out for a lot of people there. So many people have so many goals, but very few that focus on, I really need that A in that class. Yeah. And most of the kids that I met, they just want to pass the class, and they want to spend their life. So I got into like a lot of conversation with a lot of people for that, because they tell me, oh, I want to party. I'm here to party. I'm here to spend my life, but at the same time to get my degree. So, well, what really is time management? You have an assignment you need to finish. So you're gonna be the person that tells yourself, yes, I'm gonna go with my friend, yes, I'm not. I know in high school your parents does this for you, right? Yes? No? Yeah. They tell you, no, finish your homework. There will not be someone to tell you finish your homework. There's not going to be someone to tell you you have an assignment due like at the end of the week. There's not going to be someone to wake you up. If you miss class, that's it. You miss class. There's not going to be someone to tell you, oh, you should be sleeping. No, you have to time management everything you have to do. And study. Like I said, sometimes you have to find a place to study. Dorms are not the best places to study ever, unless you have a good roommate. But I used to be that kid in high school where I have in my house like a desk, and then nobody will be in there. Everybody have to be quiet, no music when I'm studying. But then when I went to college, they're putting music. They don't care about it. So that for me was a challenge. So if you're that someone of person, that would be a challenge for you. Are there any questions? Do you want to hear any stories? About what? My roommates? Yeah. Okay, so one time I left to go home, and I had a roommate. I go back on Sunday night. I found out, like, I have my pillows, everything in my bed. It was on the floor. Plus, they took my phone charger, my headphones, and I don't know where it is. So when I was like, what is this? So I asked my roommate. She got very offensive because she thought I told her, where's my headphones? You took them. So I was like, I cleared up the misunderstanding, and I was like, did you bring any of your friends? It ended up that she brought her friends into the room, and one of her friends took my headphone and the charger. And I ended up going back and looking for him to bring my stuff back. So, yeah. Some people like to bring people to your place, but usually I don't allow anybody into my room. So, yeah. Anything? Okay. But, however, if you really have to do it, you got a good opportunity or a good deal away from home, it's not like the worst thing you can do for yourself. And at the same time, it's not the best thing ever. For example, I only applied for Duke and UNC Pembroke. Why? I really wanted to go to Duke, and I wasn't open-minded at all. NC State, my mom was like, apply to NC State. I was like, no. UNC, no, only Duke. And then at the end, she was like, okay, apply to UNC Pembroke because Mina goes there. And we always went to visit him. I was like, okay. So I got my first application from the Common App got accepted, did the interview for Duke, and I was waiting for them to hear back. At the same time, for UNC Pembroke, they accepted me, offered me a place in the Honors College with a full scholarship and the Chancellor Ambassador Committee place. So I was like, wow. It's like I have an opportunity, but I'm waiting. But at the same time, this is away, and I don't know if I'm gonna stay. I can stay, and I didn't want to move out. But then I'm not sure of my future, what is gonna happen to me. So I accepted UNC Pembroke, paid the deposit, went to financial aid, and in the end, Duke replied, waitlisted. So I was like, yeah, I have to do it. UNC Pembroke, yeah, I got a scholarship for it. I joined a lot of honor societies, had a high GPA, and I was on the top of 20% of the class number. Yeah.
So what's the differences in UNCs, like from different places?
It's not good.
Greensboro, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. So the places is wherever the camp is on, they call it. So UNC Pembroke, it's somewhere in Pembroke, behind like 45 minutes from Fayetteville South. So that's why it's Pembroke. But then campuses can be different. So the campus I'm on, smaller size of people and less tuition. The tuition is much cheaper than UNC Chapel Hill that Chair goes to. The Wilmington, I think, is a little bit bigger. I have been there, but I don't know anything about their tuitions or anything. Size, and then the number of graduate schools are there. So the more graduate schools in a school, it makes it more bigger. I can't hear. Yeah, more people. Okay. So I said, however, yeah. Yes, SAT scores are different for different universities of North Carolina, UNC system. I think grades are different, like your GPA, but it never hurts to have a high GPA. It pushes you to the top of the list for having more scholarships, more financial aid, more opportunities there. It opens you a lot of paths up there. Any questions? Okay. So, like I said, it's not like the worst thing you can ever do for yourself if you have to do it. There is a good side of it. And I also want to talk about the good side of it. So, for the good side is that there's no traffic time. You don't have to worry about like driving, or do I really want to wake up like an hour early before class, 2 hours to drive or not? You don't have to worry about, is my car working or not? Is there something wrong with my car or not, you know? It saves you a lot of time. So that time you could be sleeping more, you could be studying for something, finishing an assignment in the last minute, or reviewing for a test that you have. You don't have to like rush around the streets. You're always on campus. That's a good thing. If you forgot something in your dorm, you can go, hurry, grab it, and come back. Anytime, if there is a meeting like at 8 and you finish classes at 5, you don't have to be like sticking around till the meeting. You can go to your dorm, relax, or take a nap and go back to the meeting at 8. So that's the perks of it. There's a fun living with friends, a lot. But it could be that goes back to time management. It's fun when you have time, when you know what you do and you're doing the right thing. It's fun. And you can get more engaged, being more engaged on campus. I have a commuter's friends, and I always tell them, you're lucky, because I think they're living with their parents. But then they look at me like in a weird way, so like, you're more lucky because you get more engaged on campus than us. So I think everybody sees the wrong side of theirs, but you get to go to more events, join like owner societies, go to the department or committee meetings, clubs. You can join fraternities or sororities for girls. There's so much to do because you're gonna get bored at some point and you have to find something to get to. And also, if you get more engaged on campus, it's like you having a commitment to be there. you're seeing people around you. You're gonna push yourself, and most of them gonna be your motivations. There are really good people out there. They push you to a good side, and you're depending on yourself. I used to be that shy baby walking around, nobody hears me, but being dependent on yourself, it teaches you a lot. It makes you grow yourself. It makes you realize what is the world around you doing. It makes you speak up for yourself more, right? Yeah. So I think it's a good side out of it, and it makes you realize who you are, what you really want to do, and what is going on. And last thing, I know you should already know it, but you're going to know it more when you live alone. You realize how much your parent role is important in your life. Yeah. I mean, I always thank my parents, but when I lived alone, I was like, yeah, they were doing really a lot. Just their presence at home is doing its role. So you're going to know what that means. So, bottom base, there's no right or wrong, or there's no I should or should not. Not because most of your friends in high school are going to live on campus, that means you have to live on campus too. No. And not because most of your friends are not going to live on campus and then commuting, it means the same thing. No. You really have to decide for yourself. What I see is right. What I see I should be doing, and do that. You don't have to do the majority of people do. That's the thing. Like, people always do what the others do and see doing. No, you don't have to do that. Be the difference. You can be the difference. It's not wrong. It's just you're being different. Decide for yourself. So make your decision based on your opportunities, like I said. Sometimes you get different opportunities that pushes you in different ways. Your goals. What is your goal? Maybe your goal is different from someone else's your goal, or your friend's goal, something like that. And your safety. Most important is your safety. You don't want to risk yourself to do something not safe. And always consider your values, your abilities, what you can do, and your belief, and stick to them. Maybe what you can do, your friend cannot do, or the vice versa. You can do, and your friend cannot do. So and last thing, wherever you go, wherever you stay, either you commute or stay on campus, always remember to be a name and not a number. Anybody can be a number, because if you committed to anything, you're a number. But being named, people remember you for what you have done, what you have achieved. And that is really important, because it's bringing you to success at some point. Any questions?
So the bottom line is stay.
I mean,
I wanted to actually say something quick on fraternities and sororities. They've been on the news lately, not in a very good way. So if you decide to join one, make sure you pick right. They do the craziest things.
Yeah.
And I think the bottom line is this last line here: don't be with people just because to be with people. You have certain values that your family and the church placed in you. Live up to these expectations, because it's really for your benefit long term. It's not a burden.
I know a fraternity on our campus, they almost got arrested for killing. They went drunk, and then one of them were about to die. And the police came, they almost got arrested for that. Other sororities, they're just commitment for academic based. They motivate each other to do good. They tutor each other. They hire tutors, special tutors, and they make an appointment with advisors and professor to motivate each other. Yeah. No. I did not join one for a specific reason. It takes a lot of time, and I already had like a lot of going on. I double major. I had a research. Sometimes I would go to my dorms like at 7, from 8 a.m. going back to 7, and it really took me time, a lot of time. Sororities and fraternities takes a lot of time because they require community service hours. They requires you have to be at meetings, and they put you through like testing. They have to test you for doing stuff.
Good?
Okay.
Thank you, Dewey. We didn't thank George. So let's do one for George.
Yeah. Okay.
Marina has a question. So what did you do, like, what did you say you did to, like, get a full ride to college?
A what?
What did you do in high school to get a full ride to college?
For right?
A scholarship that you got.
Yeah. So I joined an honors college. When you join an honors college, it opens you a lot. Like I said, the financial aid automatically put students into packages. So when you join an honors college or in a committee, it puts you in another package, and that package will move you higher in the financial aid. So sometimes it open you scholarships.
So is there a different application process if you apply to the honors college?
Yeah. It's different. It depends on the university itself. So some universities have a different application. Some universities you have to join after you got accepted in the universities. So it depends. But I would say go to whatever university you want to go and ask the people there. And it's important to make connections out there. Make them know you. The only way they know you is on paper, name on paper. But when you go and speak, tell them and let them know you, they will push you to the right side. They will lead you.
And you said that you're doing like research or something, and I think, is that required to do research in college?
So to apply for medical school, dental school, or pretty health jobs overall, it's very competitive. So the point of doing research, it makes you it adds an extra sugar for your application. So they say, oh, you did something, you know more than someone did not know. And obviously it is, you have experience. So that's why research is important. Plus, your advisor and mentor, they get to know you because you're always working in their lab.
So you're doing research under another professor? But
Yeah, you have to do under another professor.
Okay, and in high school, you said that you were in honor societies?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I only know about what is it? National Honor Society. And there's another one, there's 3 in my school, but they're not science related.
Mm-hmm.
So what other honor societies were you in?
They're the National Achievers Honor Society, which is specifically the minimum, yeah. Have you heard of it?
They have separate, wait, are you a sophomore?
Applications.
Separate applications for each one.
Wait, so I can get into when I was sophomore?
No, at the end of sophomore year, well, I know National Honor Society, at the end of sophomore year, if you have the GPA, they send you an application.
End of sophomore year?
Yeah.
What?
I think it's different for each school.
Or go to your counselor and ask her to join. You want to join Honor Society. There's a National Achiever Honor Society. They're the National Technical Honor Society. These are the not science-based.
Wait, what's the second one?
National Technical Honor Society. It's technical, yeah.
Is that technology?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one's not for me, definitely. Alright, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if some of these are, they don't have an organization in the school, can you still join?
Outside? Yeah. I know HOSA, HOSA, is a really good organization. And it looks really good in your application when you apply to college. And usually it's not well known in schools. They don't do.
What do they do?
It's based on medical. If you're going to the medical field, I don't know exactly what they do, details, but of what I know of my friends do, they go to a conference, they have meetings, Sometimes they let them do volunteering hour internships in hospitals or clinics or that stuff. Yes, definitely. There's outside organization you can do.
More questions? Thank you, Libby.
You're welcome.
Should I start? Hi. My part's very fast, and some of you guys might already be doing the things that I'm talking about. So my part is just about like, if you're a 9th through 11th grader, what can you be doing right now to make yourself like look attractive to colleges that you're applying to? So my question is, oh, that's supposed to transition. I was supposed to ask you, is this a do or a don't? But there's an X, so what do you think it is? Don't. Yeah, which I'm not trying to say don't study, but I am trying to say don't only study, because it's a given that you should be studying and you should be taking like advanced classes, honors classes, AP classes, and you should be doing well in them. You should have a high GPA. But that's not the only thing you should be doing. That's why I have an X. Do you think this is a do or a don't? Yeah, because these are like all of the extra things that they provide in high school, because here in America, they're all about like a well-rounded person. They want someone who's like good at school, but also good at other things. Yeah. Not all of them, but at least one of them. So in addition to like getting good grades and taking honors classes and stuff, you should be trying to like discover your interests. Like if you like sports, being on a sports team, if you like music, you have so many options. You have chorus, theater, band, stuff like that. I do recommend like Key Club, which is like a service club. I think there's other service clubs too, but I don't. Beta Club. Yeah, those clubs are really good because they have community service hours built into them and they look good on your resume. So when you apply to college, you're gonna have like these 4 main parts to your application. The first part is your transcript. This is like the part that I said is a given. You should be taking like classes that you know you're gonna do well in, and you should be doing well in them, because they're gonna look at at how many honors classes you take and at your GPA. But notice that's only 1 out of 4 parts of your application. So if you're only focusing on that, then you're missing the other 3 parts of your application. Okay, so the second part is that all of you have to either take the ACT and the SAT or the ACT. I think, my understanding, because I went to college in Pennsylvania, so I don't know, but I think here colleges accept ACTs. And I've heard, I didn't take it, that the ACT is easier than the SAT. Yeah. What? Yeah, so SAT and ACT are like the standardized like national tests that everyone who's going to go to college has to take one of them. And it depends on like what region of the country you're in. Whichever region of the country decides which one you're going to take. I think in the South, ACT is like more common, but you should ask your counselor, like if you say you're interested in these colleges, which test should I take? I think ACT is pretty standard though for North Carolina. So that's the second part. The third part I have in pink because in my opinion, this is like, I don't want to say the most important, but the most important part of the 4. It's your personal statement or your essays, and I have it in pink because this is like what makes you stand out. Like everyone who's applying to college has good grades, has a good SAT score, and is in clubs and stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Mina. Yeah, I don't think that have you applied somewhere that doesn't require an essay? ECU doesn't? What'd you say, Monica? Is there an option to? Then you should, yeah, so if it's not required, you should do the essay.
because like these people are looking at thousands of applications and they all look the same, except for the essay. That's like where you get to describe like who you are. You know, that's how they get to know who you are, other than numbers. Yeah, Thomas.
Doesn't it look good to use like big words when you're typing, saying essays and stuff, like writing them?
Big words? I don't know about
Like
big
instead
words.
of, for example, exciting, exhilarating. Like I heard my teachers love stuff like that.
I wouldn't focus so much on that. I would focus more on like telling who you are. But you're bringing up a good point that like you should be working on your like writing skills,
Yeah.
because it's gonna say a lot about like your ability to communicate.
And your
stuff.
intelligence.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Thank you.
But don't use words, long, whatever you said, difficult words, if you don't know what they mean, because you could use it wrong, and then it looks worse.
What are good websites to use so that when you write it, you look good? Like when you write your essays?
Like grammar websites?
Yeah, like I heard of EduBirdie or something like that.
Okay, I don't know about any websites, but I do recommend that sometimes English teachers have this as like an assignment where you have to write a college essay, so I recommend that you take that seriously, like actually write a good one that you are going to submit and take her feedback on it, because she's going to grade it and give you feedback. And I also recommend like ask people around the church, like I'm always available to check essays, I do that all the time. And like any of the other fellowship people who are already in college or graduated, I'm sure they'll be happy to read it too. Like peer editing kind of. We're not going to like write it for you, but we can give you advice on grammar and stuff like that.
All right.
Okay. So Georgia actually offered, when you finish writing your first draft, that you still say, anyone in the fellowship, to just go over it. But to answer your question, Tom, I think what they are really looking at is theory of expression. So big words are not as important as something that's slow. You have beginning, as a middle, as an end, and it's going in the same direction. You're not just flipping the top. And the other thing is the story. It has to be common. Like of your life. Whatever it is, that it has to be something you're telling. You're telling them something. This is not a blah blah. If you write blah blah, it should know what it is, and a plus. Yeah. Right? So there has to be a content, and this content has to make sense. For it to make sense and make an impression, it also has to be written well. Nobody can write the content. You're going to have to come up with that. What they can help with is the style, the expression itself.
I'll also say, like, because I said in the beginning that you should be joining clubs and stuff, sorry, Anthony, 1 second. Those clubs give you like opportunities to have stories to write about. Like if you're only studying and you're not doing anything else with your life, you have nothing to write about because you didn't experience anything. But if you're doing clubs like service clubs and stuff, and you have an experience like that made you grow or something like that, then you have a story to write about that shows like growth in high school. And I also wanted to go back, oopsies, sorry, to the clubs thing. It's good to join like several clubs, but it's even better to join several clubs and then at least have one leadership position in one of them. So let's say you like love French and you're in French club, then try to be like the president of the French club or the treasurer or something like that, because that shows like that you have leadership and you have like commitment to stuff and you like care and you're into the community. So that's the fourth part of your application, is going to be your resume, where that lists like what Naveen was saying, your like honors societies that you're in, your clubs, and then it's not enough just to be in clubs, but also to have some leadership positions. And I think we do a lot at church here that you can list too, like if you help out with any of the service stuff here, then you should list those too on your application. And when you're listing them, make sure you use action words so it looks like you did something. You weren't just like a passive person involved, but you were like, you cooked this, or you like balanced the account, stuff like that. Yeah.
So can we like tell Abuna to write a signature so that we can use it for the club that we're in?
What?
Because you can use 10 unsponsored out. You can use up to 10 unsponsored. Yeah. Or like it's like a because you have hours, and you can use 10 unsponsored hours. So you can use those hours to just.
Oh, you mean like service hours?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I guess it depends on like what you're asking him to sign off on. You can ask Abuna that.
Okay.
But like if you helped around the church somehow, then I'm sure that you can do that. So basically the whole point is that you have to set yourself apart because everyone has, you know, a very similar application. The point of your application is to show who you are and show that you're going to be a good fit for that university. Like the university is looking for people who are going to be successful there and who are going to be like a part of the community and that are going to bring something to it. Yeah, Thomas?
When do you recommend to take the SAT for 11th graders right now?
You're in 11th grade?
Yeah.
You should be taking it soon.
Like just like January? Does that sound good? Or February?
Yeah, because have you taken it before?
No.
You want to take it far enough in advance so that if you don't like your score, you can take it again.
Yeah.
But make sure you study beforehand.
So January is good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's like school specific. Some, I don't know if they do this at your school. At the one I was teaching at, we would give awards for like in the department best like AP Stats student. So if you get something like that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
For like service hours, and if yes, where would you include them in your application?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would include that on your resume. Yeah, service hours look really good, and you should include that on your resume. They might have some school applications might have a service hours section. If they don't, make sure you have it somewhere else on there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, I do hours for FFA and band, but that's just for the class. But can I also include it for?
Are they service hours?
It's for the class.
What do you do?
You do anything? You volunteer at like an animal shelter or anything like that? Help with agriculture and stuff.
Yeah.
So can you include it in your resume?
Yes.
Like as service hours apart from the class. All right.
Yeah.
I think if it's not required for the class to have a service, if it's required, it can always serve.
It is required for the class. It's required.
But it's outside of class?
Yeah.
Oh, then that counts. Yeah. If it was instead of class, I wouldn't count that. But it's in addition to class, so I would count that. Any other questions? Are you stressed out? Don't be stressed.
I want to say something about your essay. When you write your essay, make sure not to go online and find other essays and copy and paste, because examiners have software to discover if things have been copied and pasted, so they will just throw out your application. Yeah, that's called plagiarism. So make sure it's very personal and you actually wrote it yourself. Don't copy from any source.
So for the essay, do you just like talk about whatever, or do they have like certain prompts that you answer to? Yeah. So they're just gonna be like,
What is special about it? If right now there is nothing special about you, then join something, have some passion.
That would be something that would be special.
Out of the 5,000 people who applied and have good grades.
So, what did other people write about?
Okay, let me just give you an example. You all know Melanie, right? Melanie, you know what her She's a medical doctor, right?
Yeah.
Her, her undergraduate degree was in something like political science or international relations. It wasn't even related to science. And they accepted her into the medical degree because she was very different from everyone else. I believe that's what set her apart. I'm not talking necessarily about what she wrote, I don't know what she wrote, but they saw that her case was a very unique case because all of the kids who go into medical school studied biology and whatever chemistry, and she was someone who was very different, so she was picked. So just pick, I'm not saying you should all do political science, I'm just saying do something that would set you apart, that would make you a little bit different, stand out from everyone else. You have to figure it out. I can't tell you what it is.
I know someone, I was in a meeting, she's now a professor in medical school, and as an undergrad, her major was music. And she got, but make sure that you take the pre-req classes. So if you apply to medical school, they have, like on the application, they have your prereq and they ask you to list the course number. If you don't have that, your application is not complete. Yeah. Prereq for medical school.
Okay. So medical school
So,
has certain requirements that are not in music. So take whatever is required for music, but make sure you check all the boxes for that.
right, you can measure in whatever you want. It doesn't have to be biology or chemistry, it's just the majority of people do that. But make sure you take the prereq classes for whatever school you're going at.
Okay, so the essay portion is just going to be like, this is the essay portion, and you just write whatever you want.
The prompt for an essay for medical school, the application, why you want to go to medical school. That's it. That's the prompt. No, the max is like, I think 1,500 words. Yeah.
Different schools have different criteria, and some require actually 2 essays.
Yeah. There's something called like the common application. It's why you want to go to medical school, and that application gets sent out to schools. Then when the schools get that application, they send you the secondary application. They call it secondary, which is that application for their school. So the secondary application is completely different from university to university. Some schools, they ask you to tell, like, I got a question, what do you want to be remembered when you die? That was a question in the secondary application.
Yeah, I didn't get that. Say it again.
What do you want to be remembered as when you die? That was a question. So they ask you different questions. Some of them require like 2 essays, but you have to write an essay for secondary. Yeah.
Some of our kids, guys listen, some of our kids from church write an essay about if they came from Egypt recently and they have experiences related to that, how maybe they learned from the new culture or they brought things from their old culture, how they managed to fit in, things like that. That also makes it unique, but it has to be truthful too. Right?
Yes. When I applied to UNC way back when, my prompt was, I didn't have to write a personal statement, but I had to answer an essay, and it was, if you could write any message in a bottle that would be shipped into the ocean and somebody found it, what would the message be? It was like the most random thing ever.
Because they used all the other questions the previous year, right? Yeah, but don't get stranded in the ocean. Just write the letter. But I mean, you're gonna have to do this for a full page or something, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. You're getting there. So I wanna make sure something that Ines actually sticks. There is now plagiarism discovery software. You cannot use something that somebody else wrote. They will find out. Okay, what's that? Well, even you won't make it in the first place, because if you write the essay this way, you won't make it in. There are people who actually do get kicked out of the university because they do that. It is now very easy to find out whether people copied or not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What? Tutu?
I heard that even if like on your transcript or something, if you say something that's like not true, then if they find out, they kick you out of the college.
You can't lie about your transcript because it goes directly from your school to them. You can't change. The what? The resume. Oh, in the resume? I mean, it wouldn't be. Yeah. Oh, if they find, yeah, you have to be truthful, obviously. Sure, yeah. Okay. Okay, last one. So this is, some of it is going to be for the youth, but most of it really is for the parents about the differences between the college system in Egypt and in America. So in America, university education is not free. Nothing is free. You pay for it, and you pay very, very dearly. It is rather expensive. In Egypt, if you didn't know, in Egypt, it is, at least in the public schools, it is practically free. You pay very, very little money for that. In America also, another big difference is there is no federal control over the universities. The universities are free spirits. They do whatever they want to do within the state law and the federal law, but they do whatever they want to do. So there is no central control that makes all universities act in unison. Each university has its own schedule. They have their own requirements for the degrees. They have their own set of degrees. They do whatever they feel is necessary for them to meet their mission. They define a mission, they define a vision, and then they go about doing that with zero control from a central authority. For this reason, you're going to find huge differences between the universities. Each university does things very, very differently. So to try to copy something that you've found one university does and apply it to another university is not a good idea. There are three types of universities in America. There are public schools, public colleges. These are typically state. They are not federal. They are state universities. NC State, UNC, the UNC system as a whole is the public system in North Carolina. Other states have multiple universities in their public sector. And these are typically big because they are obliged by the state to teach the masses, basically. So they typically are big and they are less expensive, and they favor their in-state students. You've heard what in-state means. So typically the in-state tuition for a in-state person is about 1/4 of the out-of-state. Private universities are way smaller. Because they are smaller, they accept fewer people. And if they are reputable, which most of them are, like Duke, they are very expensive, but they're also very selective because many people apply and they have very much seats, and so they end up taking a smaller fraction of the applicants than the public schools. And because they are private, because they don't take money from the state, they make you pay for the entire ride, and so they don't distinguish between in-state and out-of-state. And then community colleges, you've heard from George, community colleges don't necessarily, so the other two classes of schools have both undergraduate and graduate programs typically. And community colleges are primarily to provide associate degrees. Some of them do have bachelor's degrees. Very, very rarely would they have graduate degrees. And in North Carolina, they do have programs that feed directly into the university system. So you, like George was explaining, you do 2 years in the community, in Wake Tech, for example, and then you take the courses that you've taken in Wake Tech and you transfer them into one of the state schools, and you have a good chance of getting in if you have the grades and so on. The majors, I think most of this is known, but just so you understand, this is really more for the kids than for the parents. The American system is very different from the European and the Egyptian system. Here they are really after a broad education. They are interested in making the student well-rounded, like Christina said, but even at the university level. So you have electives. You are required, they favor minors. They favor the ability to really crossbreed between ideas and majors. And double majoring, for example, is very highly looked upon here. Medicine and pharmacy, dentistry and law are all graduate degrees. This is very different from Egypt. In Egypt, when you go in the beginning, you're committed to finishing all the way through. In America, you have to get a bachelor's in something, or in pre-med or pre-law or whatever. And then when you graduate with that, from that level, then you must apply for entry into the next degree that you're seeking, and then you go into that process. Engineering here is 4 years. For the women here, there is shortage in female applicants and graduates in engineering, so that you can get a very good deal if you actually go into engineering and you're female. The one thing that I would tell the parents, because they typically would try to seek that, there is no such thing as a good or a best major. There is a job for every person who graduates with a good grade and with a good history in the school. So trying to maximize something based on the goodness of the major is not a good idea. It is way, way better to do something that you like so that you can excel in it, or the child likes and so they can excel in it. If they do excel in it and they do get good grades and get their degree at the end, they will find a good job, no question about it. And this happens every year, so it shouldn't be a surprise. This now is the important one, really. It's about admission decisions, and if you've seen the video in the beginning by the UNC officer, you should understand that admission decisions are holistic in nature. They don't really focus on a certain collection of numbers. And I want to give you just a numerical idea of how this works. So think that in a place like NC State, this year they got 26,000 applications. They need to narrow this down by about 50%, okay? And they have, I'm gonna be generous here and say they have 26 officers that are going through these. So, and they have to look through them, say, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? So each one of them is going to read 1,000 applications, which is 250 a week, okay? And at the end of this process, they gotta collectively decide who's in and who's not. So when you go through this many applications and you see that all the applicants are within a certain range of GPA and a certain range of SATs and ACTs, because if you don't have that correct range, you probably are not gonna apply. So out of the 250, how many are they gonna remember? Because at the end, when they put it all on the table and they gotta make these decisions, somebody has to advocate for you. Somebody has to say, yeah, this application struck me because it stands out because of something. Something has to stick out of the application and stick to their mind so that when they actually sit and they make these decisions, they remember you. They remember this application. Out of 250 a week, your chances are really, really small unless you do something, you tell them some compelling story of some sort. So Nobody questions the value of the GPA and the SAT, but like I'm saying, most people who are going to apply to a given school know what that range is, and they're going to be within it or very close to it anyways. What else? So what they're looking for is something more than book smarts. They know that that you've studied very hard in high school. They know that you're going to study very hard. They are going to make you study very hard when you go to college. They want to know that you can do other things, that you're engaged with your community, that you're willing to serve, that you're willing to help, that you are able to lead, you're able to provide team work when teamwork is required. You can stand on your own feet and be reliable when you need to. All these things matter. Diversity is a big thing, obviously, because for us, diversity is rather easy to prove. We come from a different culture, so you need to play on this and make sure you say something about it. Okay. This link takes you to the numbers of NC State in this year, this fall, the people that applied last year and got in this fall. And I want to go through some of the numbers just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here. So they got almost, not almost, but that's okay, 27,000 applications, a little bit less than 27,000 applications. They had to narrow this down to 51%, which is about a little bit more than 13,000 applications, okay? So every two applications, they had to pick one. And like I explained, this one is picked in a discussion. So unless somebody really advocated for that one, it's not gonna go through. Then, out of this 51%, only 40, which is about 13,000, only 4,600 were actually admitted, or were actually enrolled. Why? Because the 13,000, like Georgia was explaining, you need to actually apply to multiple schools. You are going to get admissions from, say, 2 or 3 places, and then you're going to pick one, right? So this basically says that the 13,000 that got admitted, that got an admission decision, probably applied to about 3 schools, and we got one of each 3 of these, right? But these are very high caliber people. The admitted class, as the numbers now are going to show you the averages. So for the SAT, the average this year was over 1,300. The ACT was 29. Actually, it's a hint above 29. The G pool was the weighted, this is average, more than this, 4.56, and the unweighted is 3.72, okay? Average rank in class is 14%, and the kids that came who are were in the top 10% of their class in high school were about 47%. So what does that mean? Think about it now. What does that mean? You could be a very high achiever in high school, and you're going to be average when you go into one of these schools. You're not going to be at the top of your group once you get admitted, because everybody was where they came from, okay? So why am I saying this? Because hard as it may be to get into college, it's actually harder to get out of college from the right side, okay? There are people, in Penn State, they used to say, when they have the orientation, they told the students, look to your right, look to your left, only one of these 2 people is going to graduate with you. They had a 50% graduation rate from the freshman class. Why? Because when you go into college thinking it's an extension of high school, you're making a huge mistake. It's not high school. It's not high school on steroids. It's a completely different experience, and nobody's going to tell you to turn in your homework. Nobody's going to tell you again that there is a test next time. You're going to be told everything once, and it's up to you to either meet the expectations or not meet the expectations. So College is going to force you to grow up, like it or not. The parents are smiling. Okay. This is about the waitlisting, the denied and the waitlisting. So NC State used to actually put statistics that were very interesting about the people who are denied. And I have some from about 3 or 4 years ago. You'd be amazed at how good the people they deny are. They are very well achieved people. Even their statistics are not too far below what I showed you on the previous slide. My suspicion is that they didn't really do too well in the putting together their application, or that they had holes in the, so for example, if you get a high GPA, but you take all the simple classes, that doesn't help you and stuff like that. But what happens once you're denied admission, you look at the transfer like George was explaining. You can do either wait for another, the following year, or you can you distribute these, please? Thank you. No, all the parents are here, yeah. So the parents can take one for their children, right? So they can either wait for another year, or they can do the community college and then transfer at the end of that 1 year. And like George was saying, actually you can get help and advice if you're in Wake Tech. NC State in particular has very close ties because of the engineering programs, and they send their representative to campus to Wake Tech every week that if the student is interested, they can talk to. What is the waitlisting? Waitlisting happens because, like I showed on the previous slide, NC State has, or each university has, their own number of seats that they can accommodate in the freshman class, okay? And when they open this up for applicants and they make admission numbers based on this number of seats, if by the time the acceptance is required, they don't fill these seats, they gotta get some more people. So where are they gonna get these people from? So when they send out the admission letter, they send some of the letters as admitted, some as denied, and some as waitlisted. The waitlisted are the people who sit undetermined until they figure out how many seats are not going to be occupied, and then they base the admission in the waitlisting based on that. Two important things to know. The admitting from the waitlisting is not a repeat of the previous admission decision. So they actually have to go through the entire set of applications anew from scratch. And the other thing is that changing the major that one applied to does not change the chances of getting admitted. It's not about shuffling people from one college to another. It's really about how good that application is in the big scheme of things. Okay? That's it. Any questions? So you should have 6, 7 presentations with you. I'm sorry I forgot to tell Georgia to hand out. No, George actually did it. I just forgot to tell you to hand them out as you were doing that. So if you don't have all 7 of them, let me know and I'll get you one. Any other questions? Any questions, actually? Abuna تصلي please.
In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, Amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom, on earth as it is in heaven. For this day, O Lord, forgive us trespasses, but deliver us from Christ. May the love of God the Father, Pantocrator, and the grace of the only begotten Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, gift communion of the Holy Spirit be with you. Go in peace. The peace of God be with you. Have a blessed day. I would like to thank all of you who participated. Thanks to who presented to you this, and I'm proud of all of you. God be with you.